to another episode of the Lillian Link podcast. My guest today is Jess Lipson. She is one of my favorite people to talk to on earth. She's such a blast, and we had such a great time talking to each other. We talked about a lot of different things today. We talked about current job market, what things are looking like, how things are shifting more into contracting, what it's like to be a contractor, what's it like as a company to hire contractors. We also talked about company culture, how to create it, how to maintain it, particularly in a virtual space. And then we talk a lot about resumes, and obviously we've got LinkedIn in comments. We talked about how people are using LinkedIn and how people can improve their LinkedIn. So in general, it was a great talk. Lots of talks about networking as well. I hope you guys enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed recording it. So with that being said, let's get into it. Hello, Jess. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to me today.
So excited.
I'm so excited to have you here. Do you want to tell, just like right up top here, just a little bit about kind of it's JLB Consulting, right?
JBL.
JBL, that's the dyslexia.
Kicking in. Sure. JBL is me, Jess Lipson. I have been doing, it's not no affiliation with the speakers, which I have been asked numerous times. I wish that was my family. I have been doing HR for, I'm going to age myself here, Lillian, since 2001. So I started out on Madison Avenue, kind of a madman advertising situation in New York City. I spent the bulk of my career in marketing, advertising, media, this creative institutes. And as of 2 years ago, I went out on my own. About a year and a half ago, went out on my own, was with a agency with you, and that was my heart. And I said, let's just see where this takes us, because the way the landscape is today, especially with people ops, the value prop there is you don't need me full time. If you have a small enough agency, which is I'm focusing on medium to small companies, you don't necessarily need someone full time, right? Especially if you're just doing the strategy, the people strategy. So I went out on a limb, and it's been working with the help of the people around me that are phenomenal. Most of who came from my connections from, Square Two. But I've been working with small to medium-sized companies. Quite a few of them are EOS companies since we got really ingrained in the EOS world. And there's kind of three parts to it. I'm either their HR person, about 20 hours a week, with a couple of clients. And I've branched outside of the vertical too, which is really nice. So I've got tech clients, insurance. I've got a consumer product goods client. So it's been nice to diversify and use my skill set in kind of a larger way than just sitting in-house with one team.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you touched on something that I'm hearing from a lot of people and that I'm seeing a lot. Obviously, I'm doing my own consulting, but I think particularly for these smaller companies that are those small to mid-sized companies, there's certain resources that it doesn't make sense for them to have a full-time person, or if they have a full-time person, it's pretty junior, so they need the not to toot our own horns, but we're the big guns. They need the big guns in a fractional way.
It depends, because they either have a very large executive suite of high level people, or managers at that level, and then they are in consulting out the work to the worker bees, for lack of better words, or the opposite. They've got people just working, and then they are bringing in consultants at the high level to do the strategy and to push the strategy. So I've seen it done both ways. I'm on the latter of the side. I'm actually working with a couple of companies where I'm fractional, the marketing person is fractional, and maybe the finance is fractional. So the CFOs, fractional marketing and fractional HR is really the stream that I've been seeing and working with.
Are you seeing? It feels like there's more contracting now than there was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But so you are seeing that generally across the board, that people are faster to hire.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of, and I'll go back to Square Two for a second. We changed that whole business model during COVID, right? You get rid of the overhead. You don't have an office anymore. And now it's there is that fear of layoff. There's always that fear of like, well, what if we don't need them? What if we lose a client? What if something
Yeah.
happens again and we have to let people go? And I think that fear sparked this kind of new idea of what if we got consultants? They're not full-time employees. We're not necessarily responsible for their PTO or their taxes. They work for us and we get the job done. But there may be 20 hours a week. And when we call, they're there. And if we lose a client, we put them on the back burner and then we bring them back if we need to. So I think it helps kind of ease people's minds a little bit in that
Yeah.
regard. And I've seen it work. It doesn't always work, but
Yeah.
I have seen it work successfully.
Well, and I think from my perspective, and I'm really interested in your perspective on this, is I'm seeing a lot of the pros and cons for the company and the person is
Yeah.
for the company it shifts the risk more to the person that's doing
Yeah.
the consulting. But as a consultant, and I know you've had this experience as well, I get the flexibility and I get a lot more control. So the company is reducing risk and I'm increasing my control that I have over what my day to day is, over what clients I work with and all that stuff. Is that something like when you're talking to other consultants out there, when you're placing these people, talking to these companies, is that what you're hearing? Are you hearing other pros and cons from them?
So it's funny. So from the business perspective, really quick, it's less risky, but only if you're doing it right. So to be very clear, when you have consultants, contractors that are not full-time employees, you have to be very careful that you are treating them as such. So no PTO, you can't cross the line of certain things. You cannot treat them like an employee. They cannot walk away and say, will you let me go? Now I want unemployment because I worked for you as an employee. Right? There's sticky situations that the Department of Labor doesn't allow. So being very careful and risk adverse, making sure that you're doing it right is a big part of that. On our side, on the consultant side, what I'm hearing mostly is flexibility. It allows me to be flexible because this person cannot tell you when to work. So if I've got a family at home, or if I just want more of a work-life balance, or I see a lot of people who have spouses that are home that are maybe sick, or they're caring for an elderly family member. It's the flexibility that this affords them to do that. Because from a monetary perspective, I mean, it's interesting. Yes, you can make a little bit more money, but you're also going to pay a little bit more in taxes. I mean, you have to weigh the pros and cons and figure out if it's right for you. If you're not good at time management, then it's not going to be good for you, right? I think I see it a lot in more mature roles.
Yeah.
These are the kind of people that are able to manage their own time and still get the work done. You know what I mean? Someone who's young and might need a little bit more structure. Doing a lot of interviewing recently, and there are some consultants that are younger that are looking to get into an office. They want the camaraderie, they want to be in an office, they want to be part of a team and a family, and they're looking to be full time. So it's
Well, I think about that.
perspective too.
I think about that a lot because I learned so like now there's not an amount of money you could pay me to go into an office.
Agreed.
I simply could not.
But I miss it sometimes. Like,
Well, I miss parts of it for sure. And I think I learned so much when I was fresh out of college, being in offices, having somebody to go talk to. I work with a client of mine I'm working with now. I work with a lot of young people who are within the first 5 years of being out of school. And it is like, I have to proactively tell them, like, come talk to me. Like, I'm here for you. And I try to like reach out to them in advance because there's this feeling when you're young like that of like raising your hand and asking a question, like, are you going to get in trouble for that? Are you going to be where like when you're in an office, you can just kind of absorb some of that, the culture of like, how do you talk to your coworkers? How do you have fun without being inappropriate?
I know. It's a learning tool, I think, being in the office, even at a hybrid amount.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said, you learn like everything I know, sorry, University of Delaware, is not from college. Everything I've learned is osmosis, is like hearing it from someone else, doing it the wrong way, correcting, mentorship. Like that's how we learn and we evolve. So as a younger person, I think, yes, you need that unless you have a very strong remote culture
Yeah.
where that starts with onboarding. Like
Yeah.
that is the biggest, trickiest. Like you have to know who your people are, who you are to go to, who you are safe with, who you're comfortable with. And sometimes from an HR perspective, that's hard because I fall in the back. Like you
Yeah.
guys have all of your, huddles and your team meetings, and it's like, hey, remember me? You only call me when you have a problem, or the only time I call you is when it's bad news, and I have to remind you I just have a question. Like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, HR is pinging me. So there is something to be said about then, like, peeking your head around a corner and being like, hey, you got a sec, or do you want to go grab a snack with me?
Yeah.
So I do miss that, and I do think it's an important part of almost your upbringing, if you will, right?
Yeah.
The education of like how you get along with in a professional environment.
Yeah, I think there's so much to that, and I want to talk more about some of the consulting stuff. But since it's coming up here, I've worked at a weird number of companies. Anybody who knows my career knows that I've had a bizarre one. And I worked a lot remotely since I've been working fully remotely since 2020 when we all didn't have a
Yeah.
choice. And I've worked with a lot of places, but the company culture when you were running that at Square Two was one of the best company cultures, regardless of in the office or out of the office I've ever worked for, probably the best. And
That
you
wasn't
did such,
that's I
oh,
mean,
for
we have
sure.
to give credit where credit is due. I mean, that's leadership. That's everyone.
For sure. And also, I'm going to give you a lot of credit because you were the head of the ship of the culture. You were the one going, this is how, specifically in the way that we engaged remotely with each other.
Yeah.
I felt closer to the people that we were working with at Square Two than a lot of the offices that I've been in. And I think when you're advising clients now, or the way that you thought about it before, or when companies are thinking about this, what are some of the ways that you created that culture and maintained it and made sure that people were engaging?
That's tough because it's not. So let me start from the beginning. When I was brought on to Square Two, we were hybrid. We had an office.
Yeah.
We were hybrid, and we had just started going remote because we realized, or the leadership team realized that if we want the best people, right? We want the best people. They're not necessarily in this little Philadelphia area, right? They all just don't live here. They live everywhere. And if we want to be the best, we have to go outside. And so I was brought on to build that culture. So there was a lot of turnover during that time because it wasn't for everyone. And by the time that you came on board, and after, I mean, I was there almost 9 years. After that time, you hire people and you onboard them into that culture. So the people that were still there were loyal to the company and they were not adverse to change. And we changed a lot. And it was like, and they came along for it. They were like, let's see what happens here. We love where we're working. We love the clients. We love the work we're doing. Let's stick around and see. And you have to be adept to change. You have to be agile in that way. Everyone else is hired into that culture. Here is how we work, and here is how things are going to move, and welcome to the family. And that's on board. That starts from recruiting. That starts from the first conversation that we have. And if you recruit appropriately and you recruit towards your core values and the culture of your team, then you're hiring the right people. And those are the people that you are going to get to adhere to your culture and to get that feeling remotely. I mean, now we got together every once in a while, but gosh, I mean, I feel closer to you sometimes than people that I've met 12 times. And me and you have probably met face to face like three. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that comes across in a way because we're living those core values. And I do
Yeah.
that. And that comes along again from the first second of recruiting and hiring appropriately for the culture of your company.
So that's so great. I also think there's a couple of things in that I think are really interesting that I think you are uniquely good at, which is one, creating core values and actually living and doing them. Like
Yeah.
so many companies have the values listed on the website and then they put that down. Or they, in the all team meeting, they just read off the core values and they're like, look, guys. So how did you bring in that those core values? They were something day to day. They were something that was, how do you intentionally hire for something like love your agency or, oh gosh, what was the one about being blunt? No fluff.
No fluff. That was always my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, because you have to incorporate them in your day to day. I mean, how many times did you hear our leadership team say, no fluff, here's what I'm going to say? Right?
Absolutely.
Practice what you preach when you're talking. Like, we actually spoke the word. So if you have good, if you can't just have guiding principles, you need to have core values that are easy to understand, easy to learn, and that people adhere to. They want to live them. They want to know that this is why I'm valued at this company. But I have to be honest, it comes from leadership. When you hear the CEO, the CFO, the COO, when you hear them saying these things, you know that they're real. When you go back to your core values and you look at them and you read them and you say, I fit them, but does my CEO fit them? And if you say no, but they're pushing them, then we've got a problem from the top down, and then everyone scoffs at it. So it really takes a lot to make sure that your leadership team is a true leadership team. They're true leaders, and they are the ones at the helm of living these core values. If I'm no fluff with you, then it's okay for you to be no fluff with me because we're living our core values, right? If I'm going to say it like it is, and then I'm going to punish you for saying it like it is back to me, that's not how we work. So it's tit for tat a little bit.
Yeah.
If I'm asking you to do it, then I've got to do it too. And that comes from,
I think that's the no fluff is probably the one that changed me the most in my time working with you guys because I'm this Minnesota girl where passive aggressive is my main mother tongue.
You're Minnesota nice, isn't that what they say?
Yep. I will, you can insult me to my face and I'll be like, I'm so sorry that I did that to you. Where I had to learn having something like no fluff to say. No fluff is one of my favorite things still.
Yeah.
To be like no
Transparency.
and it just drops the ability, like it has everybody in the room going, let's not think with our feelings. Let's think, let's hear what she's saying for what it is. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone, but it managed to create a safe way. I watched other people say it, not to leadership, and leadership heard it and listened to it for what it was. And I then was able to do that and exactly what you're talking about. And that was true with all of the values there.
Yeah. One of our values was what? Always learning, always teaching. What did we do? We had certification days. We took an entire day off to get certifications. So that's the way that you do it. You actually put them into action. So they're not just words on a banner that sit in the lobby. You can point to one and you can say, oh yeah, that we did that. So there needs to be an action item attached to it. I used to have fun with them all the time, but I would quiz you guys. Just say them out loud. There's an acronym. There's all the ways that you can remember them and had fun with them, but you literally have to use them. You have to act on them, and you have to have examples that people can go back and say, I've seen this in action. They really practice what they preach, which was another one of ours.
Yeah,
I still use them. I still use them 2 years later.
Because they were so good.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about, I think this ties back into what we were talking about with contractors and what that looks like.
Yeah.
Whether that's with Square 2 or with companies when you're helping connect contractors or when you're working as a contractor, how do contractors not add to the culture rather than dilute the culture?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one, actually, because you can't treat them like employees, but you can invite them in.
Yeah.
We're people. We're human. We need human contact. And when they become part of the team and you include them, there are certain ways, I think, to include and have camaraderie with people that you're not working with, 40 hours a week. I think we did it very well at Square Two. We had contractors, we had we had contractors in the Philippines that we would praise, right? We would bring
Mhm.
them in, we would praise them. We gave, awards, peer-to-peer recognition, making sure that you were having the same conversations with them. We had a weekly meeting where we were transparent. They were invited. Now, if they didn't come, that was fine. It was mandatory for full-time employees, but giving them the opportunity to feel invited into that and to also have their voice heard. I mean, I would ask them questions when they were there. We would make them part
Yeah.
of the team, quote unquote, right? Without them having to be full time. And I think that's a core value too, just incorporation, transparency, inviting them in, letting them have a seat at the table if they want it. I think that's part of it. But it's hard because if they don't want it and they just want to come in and do their work and leave, then that's on them too.
Yeah.
And I think the team at large has to understand that the culture is divided. If you have an
Mhm.
understanding that you have the culture of the company, you've got your full-time employees, but then we do have these contractors, and it's up to them on how much they want to be involved or not. And I mean, unfortunately, you have to leave that up to them. If you have a good culture, you'll see that people want in. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a great example of that. You were and came on full time. Like if a company has a good culture and a good camaraderie with their team, people will want to be involved.
Absolutely.
There's something to be said for having someone who is not necessarily loyal to your company but wants to hang out with you all the time, wants to be in
Yes.
your meetings.
Yeah.
Um, that's, I think, a really good sign. It also, I think, helps people understand the difference between having full-time people and having contractors. And you just have to be aware of that different culture.
Yeah, for sure. And I
It's
think that
tough.
my experience with being a contractor at Square Two and then getting hired in, I think is also something that you are uniquely good at and that you have this perspective on. But I also think there's lessons that can be learned both from companies and from contractor perspective in terms of that long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Because again, if we're going to me and you as an example, I talked to you, what was that? At least a year and a half, maybe 2 years before I ended up actually
It was
starting
almost
working for
three.
Square
I
Two.
distinctly
Was it
remember it
almost
was
three?
almost
That's
three.
crazy.
On
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I was just like, hey, checking in,
Yeah.
keeping warm. And then one day you said, I've got hours available. And I was like, let's chat. I mean, timing is also everything. But
Yeah.
as a recruiter, one of the things that I'm a firm believer in is proactively recruiting. I'm not going to sit
Mhm.
around and wait until you're available and you're looking for a job and call me. I'm going out there and I'm keeping a warm bench of people. And it always worked in our favor. We got a new client. We don't need someone full time. Let's hit the contractor bench. Or we
Mhm.
need someone full time. Do you have anyone? Are there, references sitting out there? It always worked in our favor.
Yeah. So in terms of like how the importance of, just if you could speak to a little bit, the importance of the way that you treat those people and the way that you treat contractors from that relationship building standpoint and maintaining those relationships, because I think that's a superpower that you have of your ability to connect with people and maintain those connections for however long. Like what are some of the things, if somebody's trying to start doing that for themselves in their career,
Yeah.
what are some things that you see as helpful in that?
So you have to make sure that you maintain the connection, right? Because a lot of times, like again, an action item needs to come out of it. So
Hmm.
whenever I'm talking with someone or I've interviewed someone who was a reference, let's say, and it's like, we don't have any active openings now, but I'm happy to keep you in mind. I'll put them through the interview process and I will vet them. And if everyone loves them, right, they will sit on a bench until we have an open position. The open position comes, I want to make sure that that person still knows that we're interested. So, however long that time is, after that interview process, I'll say, let's touch base in a month or so. And we put time on the calendar at that moment because I want to know that we have an action item. We have something tangible at the end. Even if after that month we talk and there's still nothing, what's going on? How is your search going? Are you getting interviews? Like you build an actual relationship with that person because and I say this to people that we want to bring on board. This is not everyone. I can't create a relationship with every single person that I speak to. But if I think you are good for us, and I'm trying to find a place for you, or we're waiting for a place for you because you are culturally a great fit for our team, soft skills, hard skills, culture, core values, the whole, right? You are it. I will reach out. I'll put it on my calendar. Reach out to so and so. I will ping you on LinkedIn. I want to know how your search is going. I'll help you with interviews if you need me to. I mean, I'm building a relationship with that person, and that's how you do it. It's not just a candidate at that moment. And then when they come on board, you know that person, and it's an easier onboarding at that point. It's not easy to do. I'm a people person. I will speak to a brick wall. Not everyone is like that. But it takes action. You can't just say, okay, great speaking to you. We'll call you when we need you. It's not going to work that way.
When you flip that around and look at that from the other perspective of you're somebody who's in a position where they're either already a consultant and they want to improve their networking ability, or they're interested in going more into consulting and fractional work, what are some ways that you would recommend people approach that when somebody's talking to you for the first time? What are the ways that has been, how to be impactful in that way?
You know, it's interesting. I could speak from my own experiences. It's your network.
Yeah.
It's who you know. And I specifically nowadays, you have to build that network. If you go out to networking events, I don't love them. Like, you know, from someone who can speak to the wall, you need to keep your network close and engaged. Whether you're joining some sort of group that's in like they have fractional groups out there, whether it's an HR group, whether it's a marketing group, or, you know, in your area, because someone knows someone, and it's a lot of word of mouth. LinkedIn is always my first go-to, and you start making connections and you reach out to people that are interesting to you, and you have those conversations and you build those relationships. But that is where it comes from. Not even full-time, forget contract versus full-time. The market is so saturated right now with open roles. And what I just said, and being proactive, sometimes my roles are not active, they're passive. I start to look for people and bring them in. I tell people that right off the bat. This is not an active role. I'm starting to build my bench, right? But the people that come to me through a reference, the people that I know that I used to work with, the people on my LinkedIn and part of my groups are the first people I go to when I have an open position or when I need a job. That's how this all works. Yes, I look at resumes. I read every resume. I know how to read them at a pace now that blows my own. But that's another thing, making sure that your resume is attractive and readable, easy, right, for the recruiters that are getting it. But if we're talking contractors specifically, it's your network.
Yeah, I want to come back to the resume thing.
Yeah.
But when you talk about network, like, what are some of the ways that, like, I know I'll speak to what my experience is and what I recommend. When I talk to people, I'm like, talk to anybody. Don't make it about getting that job. Make it about building that relationship.
Yes.
Because whenever I'm in a situation, especially now, where I'm like, I want to make a change. I want to do something different. I'm back out contracting. I'm just setting up whoever I can talk to. I have my people. You're obviously super high on that list. But I have my people from throughout my career that I'm like, something's changing and I need work, or I want to be better connected, or I need to get back out there. It's not about going, well, Jess has a job for me. It's going, well, Jess knows people who know people, and I'll talk to whoever Jess wants me to talk to. I mean, that's what we were talking right before we started recording.
Yeah.
Who
do you
and
know?
just
Knows
having those
someone else,
connections.
knows someone else knows someone else. It is whisper down the lane. It really is. My first, when I got my LLC, my first client came through a kid I used to babysit.
Oh my
We
God,
connected
that's
after years. He grew up with my brother. I babysat him and his sister. He has gone out on his own as a financial advisor. He initially reached out because financial advising, 401k, HR, and he said, I have a CFO, fractional CFO to introduce you to, and got my first client. Like, wasn't
That's
even
so good.
through my professional network. So,
Yeah.
yes, speak to everyone. Let people know that you are out there. Like, don't be shy to say, who do you know in my industry or not even in your industry? Like, I'd love to meet some people. And that's why I say go to these events. A
Yeah.
lot of the people at these events are business development people. Well, and they're
Yeah.
looking for sales, but they always know someone within the business who knows someone else.
Yeah.
And I joined the Chamber of Commerce in my area, met a ton of people. Like anyone, you just have
I
relationships.
And people think connecting with salespeople, like you're like, oh, I don't want to be sold to. That good salespeople are not always selling. Really good
Yeah,
salespeople are
they'll sell
connecting
you.
people. Yeah.
They'll sell you.
So I have there's this guy in my network who's great, and he and I got connected from like a very like, hey, LinkedIn kind of like we didn't really know each other way, and we just got on a quick half-hour phone call, chatted. And he does this thing with every networking meeting he has where he introduces you to three people that he knows. And I'm now someone, it's so good. And I'm now someone that he introduces people to. And I will take any meeting that he sends me because I got a lot of business out of that. And if I ever need to connect with someone, I reach out to him and I'm like, do you have anyone who knows this? Do you have anyone who knows that? And he's the most connected man in the Twin Cities. And it's
That's the whole point of LinkedIn. I'm sorry. LinkedIn for president. Like that is the whole point. It's a whisper down the lane of who you know. And
yeah,
that idea I love. That's a
yeah.
great tactic and tool to start using.
And that's why like I a lot of salespeople, the reason they're in sales is because they're really good at connecting with people and they like doing it.
Yeah.
We all know salespeople who are out there to stab backs and make
Yeah.
money. Um,
A good
but
salesperson is not just selling the product, they're out there just connecting the dots, is what they're doing.
and they know that their value is their relationships. That the
Yeah.
best thing that they can do is have good relationships, and they're
Yeah.
not willing to damage that for anything.
Yep.
Um,
Good point. I
so
love
yeah, they're great people to connect to in that way. I do want to go back just a little bit and talk about well, let's talk about networking and how it relates to job applications right now. Because a phenomena that I experienced, like I said, weird career. So I've gone through a lot of times where I needed to apply for jobs. I also have a really solid, strong background.
Yeah.
So I'm very qualified for a lot of jobs. You gotta have I'm always networking, but I also am just applying for a large number of jobs. Usually, when I'm looking for a new job, I'm applying for like 100 jobs or something, and I'm getting a small number of interviews, and I'm getting all this other things. I probably applied to like 150 jobs last fall and got 0 interviews except for the ones through my network. And I'm wondering, I think you probably are seeing this phenomenon more. What's going on?
Well, you say fall. So let's put this into perspective. There's 2 times a year that I believe are the worst times to recruit.
Okay.
Summertime and the end of the year. Because people are closing their books, they're paying their bonuses, it's holiday time, you might have an open job, but people don't have time to recruit. There's the outliers, of course. I've
Yeah.
hired people in December. But for the most part, there are these jobs that are out there that are not necessarily they're getting hundreds of resumes because again, the market is so saturated right now. And it's just a bad time. It's just a bad time.
Yeah.
They're not even looking at them. They're going through. Or and I'm not saying this about you, there's AI engines now that are not recognizing your resume.
Yeah.
They're pulling keywords that are not appropriate. They are pulling resumes that don't make sense. And yours just got looked over because a human isn't doing it.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to say. It's funny too, because recently I have not, you would think, I posted a sales role recently on Indeed. Goose egg, 0 applicants, 0. Now I have to take a look and say, I know these people are looking. You've got to
Yeah.
get, what am I doing wrong? Am I posting it with a bad is the salary not right? Am I posting it with a bad title? Maybe the title's not attractive. Like there's so many things that I have to do too. But then there's the people that are out there just blindly sending their resume, and it gets exhausting. It runs you down, and then you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to look at anyone anymore. Who's got references? Who's got a referral? And you take that one. So
Yeah, because
there's so many factors here.
well, and I think you touched on something that I feel like is exacerbating the problem that I think you probably have a better insight to than I do, which is it's your AI talking to my AI. Like when I made my resume most recently, there's all those resume grading tools, and I ran it through a few of those, and I made changes based off of what they said, and then obviously I had you look at it and other people, and it really is like I'm teaching my computer to talk to your computer in a way where like then it's just a bunch of noise because AI creates efficiencies in that like there can be a higher volume, but then there's a higher volume.
Way higher volume. But again, I'm not finding anyone for one of my jobs that I posted. So like it depends, right? Like I think it really depends. You're in the world of marketing. Everybody does marketing. Everybody does marketing. This is not niche. And even though you might be very skilled at one piece of marketing, your resume says marketing on it. Everybody, it's like social media. Everybody, you have an Instagram page, you know how to do social media, right? So it really, and sales, same way. It's so blanket. That I think I think things get lost in the shuffle. I think resumes fall to the bottom. I think there's such an influx of people sending their resumes all day. I always tell people there's a difference between pushy and persistent.
Yeah.
I love to all those people out there who think they should not do this. If you sent your resume to me via LinkedIn, and on it, you can find my name. There's always a way to see who the hiring person is. And you ping me and say, don't chat GPT it. Give me a little, I applied, here's why I'm good. Short and sweet. Please take a look at my resume. I've attached it again here. I will look at it and I will go find it in the pile. I will always look at it because you took the time to do this. I have found great people that way. Now, the difference between pushy and persistent, right? Did you read my resume yet? I'm still interested. You haven't responded, like, friend. Or, I'm still really interested in this. I just looked up and I did some research on your website and I found that too. Yeah, like you have to be intentional with it. Not just, I sent my resume again, and you're pushing a button. You have to be intentional with getting your foot in the door in a proper way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to be said for reaching out, but I don't think a lot of people are doing that. I think people spend 3 hours a day doom scrolling down a rabbit hole of LinkedIn and jobs and hitting apply, 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 apply. Oh, you want a cover letter? Don't have one. Skip that one. Like, I think that's what's happening. And you're not getting noticed.
Yeah. And I think
is in one fall, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's not intentional. No offense. But
totally.
Rights.
Well, and I knew that I was the thing that I was trying to call out in that is like, one, I'm imperfect. But two,
also, let's see what happens.
Well, and also, let's see what happens. And it's changed so much. Because it used to, like, the last time I was applying for jobs was like 2 years ago or 3 years. Sorry, I just did the math. It was a lot more than that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it was like 2021, 2022. And it just has completely changed since then. And I'm sure there's other people who are trying to look for other opportunities right now that are running into that same problem of like, it's just totally different.
You have to also be intentional with your posting. If somebody's just posting something and they're not putting what they're looking for or weeding people out with prerequisite questions, like I can't look at every resume. Like if you, for example, HubSpot, like if I need HubSpot, I'm putting that as a prerequisite. If you have not had HubSpot on your resume, or if you haven't known it for 3 years, been working in it, I'm not doing your resume. And that's kind of what the AI bots are doing too. But I think there's some error there. There's some, there's human error too. But if they're skipping over some resumes, if you're just feeding it through an AI bot, saying, look for the keyword HubSpot, who knows what
Yeah.
you're going to get?
Yeah, and I think that that's where the networking comes in too. And I think what you're talking about that persistence and reaching out to people, that's something I see across the board when I'm working with clients on LinkedIn is what you described is exactly right. Of like, keep it really short and sweet, keep it super focused on what's going on. Don't, the no fluff comes back. Don't go and dive into every little detail about every little thing that you could possibly do. It's a classic problem that salespeople have where they're like, I have this one opportunity to reach out to this person. So I'm going to send them this long thing because they're going to have all the reasons in here of what's going on. I have been working with sales teams to optimize email communications and LinkedIn communications for a very long time. The shorter, the better.
I don't have an attention span for it. I'll tell you right now, I got 1,000 things on my plate. If you say, hi, talk to me, and you're a real person and I can see why I should talk to you, you got it.
Yep.
It
One of
would be as simple as that.
the message I send most often is, hey, I noticed we have this and this in common. I would love to connect. Like, do you have time? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, I end it with a question, make it short and sweet, include something about why they should be reading your message over the other message.
Yeah.
If I get one more 5-paragraph in mail, I'm gonna lose my mind.
No offense to these people that put time into it. I don't have the time to read it, nor do I want to. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like most people, when they send things like that, I'm reading the first couple and I say this about a resume too. I'm
Yeah.
reading the beginning of your resume. I want to know what you're looking for. I'm probably reading the first bullet point of every job, and that's it. Like
That's what I was.
I
That's what I was.
don't care about everything you did at your last job. That's what the interview is for.
Because that's
Give me what I need to get your foot in the door.
so that's what I was going to ask about the resumes specifically. Because I am weird in that I love cleaning up my resume and
You do
keeping it
often
up to
clean your
date
resume
and
up.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I also I have a lot of friends who are like, well, Lillian knows how to do a resume and Lillian knows how to do this. And I keep an eye on it. But I'm curious especially when you get those big batches or you're looking for somebody that you like want to expand that bench. What are the things when you're looking at a resume that stand out to you and what are the mistakes that you see people make?
I'm always just looking for keywords. I mean, keywords, consistency is a big one, like
Ooh.
detail oriented. If you've got a different font size in one and different bullet points indented in a different, like we're done. That is detail oriented. Did you not edit this? And you don't need to be an English major to know that all the buttons should line up. Little thing, that's the biggest mistake I see is
Yeah.
an inconsistency in font and size and the way that you're writing things. Why did you write this paragraph different than you wrote this one? Now, some people should have long resumes because they've done a lot, and I get it. And when I work with so I worked with a team of engineers. Their resumes, I get it. You should have all of that on there.
Yeah.
You are correct, sir. But when you're working with marketing, creative, even salespeople, I want to see numbers. I want to see what you've accomplished. That's what I'm looking for, right? I know that you did your job. How many deals have you closed? What's your book of business? Marketing, I want it to look nice. I want it to look, you don't have to have a logo, but you've got to have the keywords in there that I know. Account management, HubSpot, I want to see that you've worked with a book of business. I want to see the clients that you've worked with. Even if you can't list them, I want to see how you get to where you have gotten organizational skills, detail to attention to detail. So again, if you're applying for any kind of account management role and your resume looks yucky, I don't want you emailing my client something, right?
Yeah, you're just throwing that. You're not even reading that. But that's
Right.
going away.
So the truth is, if I'm a big fan of less is more. Less is more. I need to know the skills that you have. Truthfully, I don't even care about your education. At this juncture in our world, like that's great, but it's at the bottom of the page. Like
Yeah.
I want to know the skills you have. I want to know who you are and what you're looking for. And I want to know what you've done in your past. I'll look at titles and I'll look at spaces of time that you've worked. That's a big deal. If I see the last 4 jobs, you've been 6 months, 3 months, 8 months, 1 year, I got questions.
Yeah.
Questions. No offense to you. I know you have a crazy history. Now, if I see that you were at one company for 7 years, another company at 8 years, COVID hits and you've been 6, 3, 4, because I've got a weird in
Yeah.
between too. And I am interested in talking to you. That'll be one of the first questions I ask, but you got a foot in the door, right?
Yeah.
So there are, to answer your question, and I'm going about this the longest way possible,
Which is my dream.
consistency, clean, short and to the point, keywords.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? If you're a project manager keywords. Don't make it a blanket resume that I can't tell what job you want or what you've done.
It's one of the things that I advise people a lot when I'm telling them about how to set up their LinkedIn is
Yeah.
you don't need to guess. Go find 3 job descriptions that you're like, this is the job I want. It doesn't have to be in your area. It doesn't have to be like exactly like the industry you're looking at. But if you're like, if I could find this job, I would love working there. Read what person they're looking for and make that what you say you are. Like it's
Yeah.
not.
To your point, it's I'm baffled by how many people don't know that you can have multiple resumes.
Yeah.
Make 3 resumes. Make
Yeah.
4 resumes and make sure you're sending the appropriate one to the job you want. Don't tweak just one. Have
Yeah.
multiple ready to go.
Yep.
Next question I always get, should I have a cover letter? I don't like a cover letter. I don't read it. It's probably not some people do. Godspeed. Everything I need to know should be in that resume. Everything, including what your cover letter would say in this short little email or the short little blurb at the top. Don't want to read your cover letter.
Yeah.
Sorry. Not sorry.
Yeah. Which, like, I
Some
hate
people
writing a
ask
cover
for
letter.
it. Have one ready because they're going to ask for it. Larger companies. Or if you're a copywriter, be creative.
Yeah.
Don't chat GPT it. We can tell.
That's another question that I have that I, as a marketer, have a website that has my portfolio. It has references on there. It has all sorts of other stuff. I feel like as a marketer, having a portfolio
Yes.
website is really important. Do you find that that's true for other roles, or are you really only caring about it for marketing, or does it help anybody stand out?
It's actually a great question. I think it helps anybody stand out. From an HR perspective, like, I mean, and you helped me with all of my stuff, but like, I have a website. If somebody wants to hire me and they can look at my website and see what I've done and see that I've taken the time to do this, and there's, people that have spoken for me on there, I think that's great. If you have a link to your website on the top of your resume, I will always click it because I'm interested. That's the truth. And it gives me an idea of who you are. If it's like a bespoke and it's like just a bunch of like tabs that I can't open, that says something about this person. If you have a nice, clean website and you're an account manager, marketing, that to me is like you took the time. Yeah. That's detail oriented. That's kind of part of that. That's intentional, right?
Yeah.
I was just interviewing someone and before we even hung up, he said, can I email you something after we hang up? And I said, sure. And he emailed me a presentation that he had put together as like an interview presentation of what he's done. So his resume got him in the door. We had our interview, and then he sent me a presentation of his career. I loved it. It was so forward thinking, and it was so I want to use a different word than intentional, but it was so like, you're a doer. You want this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it got him all the way up the ladder. I like that kind of stuff.
I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. We could talk for hours, so
Oh,
I don't want to. I don't want to keep going too much. But before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. Obviously, what I've been doing as part of Lillian Link is, I always say, helping people kind of turn their network. A lot of my clients are people who have been working for many decades and have a really great network, have this great history, but they don't want to work full-time in corporate anymore, but they're not ready to retire. And I talk about the fact that, like, I can help you turn your network into a business. So what are some things when you're seeing people on LinkedIn, whether that's for consulting or for job, like what are some of the things that you, from your lens, are seeing on LinkedIn, either at that networking standpoint or just as a profile?
Well, you did that for me. So it's
Yes.
funny because I look at LinkedIn completely different after you did that for me. Because the first thing I now look at is that header, that SEO header
Yeah.
is very important to me. I don't want it to be your current job. I can see what your current job is. I want to know who you are in those 5 words or, however many. So that's really important to me when I'm looking at LinkedIn. I can read a resume, right? But going out and intentionally there's that word again, looking for people proactively. Make sure you've got that summary at the top. That I think is the most important, and make sure it is different. I read one the other day and it was like, it started with, let me tell you a story. And I was like, and it drug me in. Like
Yeah.
you need to market yourself, whether you're a marketer or not. You need to learn how to tell your story. And that kind of hooks people in, and that hooks me in as a recruiter. And then I look, and then I scroll down and I see what you've been doing. I always look at to see if people have referrals. I love to see what other people say. Now, I'm a skeptic in the way that I don't think anyone would ever ask someone who wouldn't give a good referral to give
Yeah.
one, right? So I know that they're all done in a great spirit. But I think those are the main things. I mean, again, that SEO heading, that stands out to me, and that summary always stands
Yeah.
out. If you have not taken the time to build out your LinkedIn, that speaks worlds to me. Like
Yeah.
now you're just a face on a page and I don't know anything about you.
Yeah, and I think I spend more time thinking about LinkedIn profiles than the average duck, but I think one of the big things that I'm seeing a lot and that I think you touched on here is the way that AI, when it's done wrong, is flattening everything. It's something Bob and I on our episode talked about a lot of it's easy to lose what is interesting by letting AI kind of flatten it. Now, that's not to say you can't start with AI. I start my drafts with AI
I
a
start
lot.
every ChatGPT is the best invention since electricity. I am concerned. I'm like totally not concerned, convinced. But you have to put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
It has to be your voice.
And I use AI at 2 points. One, when I'm struggling with white page syndrome and I'm looking at something and I'm like, I know kind of what I want to say, but I don't want to start it.
Oh,
And then I
it's
use
so
it.
better.
I use it for like shortening things. So like
Oh yeah.
I've done like I just wrote an article this morning that's going to come out on Sunday, and I went to post it and it was way over the character count, and I went, okay, you got to fix this.
You know what's funny is I do it. My best friend does this too. We do it. I write in my own voice, which is sometimes not great, and I'll say, polish this up and make it sound less mean or less judgy or
Yeah.
less like I have to like. I use it to make me sound better as a human. I've written it, but I use it for cleanup.
Yeah. And it's so important when you do that because it's really easy to go, oh, it's done, and just paste it.
Yes. Yeah,
But you
100%.
gotta reread it, especially when you're doing something like your LinkedIn profile, especially when you're doing something like your resume, because you want that exactly what you talked about. That first line in your summary better sound like you. It better be, it shouldn't be what ChatGPT is saying because that nobody's gonna read that. I love the let me tell you a story. What a great
Yeah, so
story.
good.
And I'm being so effusive about this while thinking to myself, I don't like my bio, like my about right now, and I need to fix it. It's so boring, but
Well,
it's
aren't you your own worst patient? Like I'm my
I
own
to-
worst patient.
totally.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, I hate writing about myself, and I'm like, but you're so special and important and amazing.
I
Why
hate
wouldn't you want to write
doing
about
my
you?
resume. I hate fixing my website. Like, I don't know. I feel like
I
it.
don't.
I
I
know.
don't want to do this. I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about. You want me to talk about me? What
You
I
feel
thought.
like ChatGPT, just write a bio about me. Okay, fine. Like, I
Yeah.
know. I know.
I do these LinkedIn coaching calls and I get on the phone with people and I draw them out. I make them talk about themselves. And I'm always like, people, you're amazing. I can't believe it required all this effort to get you to, and then I have to do it for me. And I'm like, well, nope.
You. Short answer. I know. I could talk about myself all day. I mean, come on. No, but when humans ask to really evaluate who they think they are and put that in writing, and then that goes out into the world, that is hard to do. That is hard to do. I read mine all the time. I want to change mine all the time. So I'm like, ew, that's not me. And then I feel like take a step back and look at it from a different lens. I have multiple, you read it. I have Lauren, I've had Bob read, I have Julie. I mean, everyone I know who's a creative, sound mind, I've had them all look at everything I've done for just a little bit of self-confidence in it.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about yourself.
And especially when you're in that contracting stage, especially when you're looking at really senior positions, having your LinkedIn right matters so much. It's something I say to people all the time. It's like, you're going to spend an hour with me and then we're going to have this really tight. And people are always surprised when I have those conversations that I'm not actually talking about your LinkedIn that much. I spend most of the time going, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Yeah. And then who are we talking to? Yeah. So are we talking to recruiters? Are we talking to businesses? Like, who are we thinking about? And then you write it.
So I'm going to rewrite mine. Can you look at mine and see if it's good?
Yeah, let's do a call. I'll do a call with you next week. I'll make you read my resume 10 times a year, and I'll fix your LinkedIn 10 times a year. It'll be great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jess. This is a blast.
I know.
I so appreciate you all the time, and particularly right now today. And we'll talk soon. And thanks again.
You, and I appreciate you. And this was awesome. Keep doing what you're doing, girl. You pull out the best in everyone. You do.
Oh, same. Right back at you. Well, we could compliment sandwich forever, so we gotta go. Bye.